Good afternoon, Commissioners. Good evening, Mayor. I'm Wes Blackman. I'm Chair of the Historic Resource Preservation Board, and every 6 months we come to you and tell you about our progress, what we've been doing over the next 6 months. And we're not just interested in the history of Lake Worth, we're also interested in the future. So I'll share with you some of our plans for the next 6 months.
Excellent, thank you.
Just to remind you, we have 6 historic preservation districts. There are 3 national districts. I'm missing a star here for the Old Town Lucerne District, which is the Parrot Cove area. But those have National Register status, which is really an honorary title. And then we have 3 purely local districts. But essentially, we are the Planning and Zoning Board for those different areas, and we make zoning decisions as well. And that was designed as part of our LDR, Land Development Regulation Rewrite, to make it easier for people to come through the process and not have to deal with duplicate boards and go back and forth, and they can just stick with one board, either the Planning and Zoning Board if they're outside of our historic districts, or within the historic districts, they'll just deal with the Historic Preservation Board. And we have 3 individually registered properties on the National Register, and that would be the Gulfstream Hotel, and we're excited about the prospect there with the new sale to the owner and looking forward to working with them. We have nothing concrete to react to, and I guess they have talked with staff, but it's just very general right now in terms of their plans. And then the Osborne School is also on the National Register for Historic Places, as well as the City Hall Annex building. And this is our current roster. I took this from the city's website at the time I prepared the PowerPoint presentation, and it's already out of date, so I'd like to kind of update it for you. The sad news is that right now we only have 4 people on the board. Juan Conton, who is an architect and contributed greatly to the board, resigned at our last meeting because he has projects now in New York and Hong Kong. So the geography being what it is, he won't be able to attend our meetings regularly. So that is a vacancy. I am chair, Herman Robinson is vice chair, and we have Judith Just, who is a lawyer. And these professions are important because they add up to allowing us to be a certified local government, which gives us certain benefits for state funding, and that will come up later in the presentation. But it is important that we fill these vacancies with people of certain professions, and that's all within our code and outlined in our code. But the long and short of it is we're out of architects. Mark Clary also resigned about a month and a half ago. So currently we have 3 vacancies, 2 of which were architects that were on the board. We would greatly miss that kind of input, so we really need to go out and recruit for architects. And the challenge we have now is that because we have 4 people, and we are a 7-person voting board, we need those 4 people to establish a quorum, and during the summer, that could be a problem. And we would hate to not have a meeting and have applicants in the audience waiting for a quorum and have to cancel the meeting. So it is somewhat urgent that we address these vacancies. And I've reviewed with you before the certificate of appropriateness, which is the item that we give people when they ask to make changes to their house. And we have a matrix that splits out what is reviewed by staff and what is reviewed by the board. And we have slid the index to really capture a lot at the staff level, so we're not bringing a lot of people and residents through the board process, which is more expensive and cumbersome, and they have to appear before us and that kind of thing. And with the staff review, it kind of coalesces better with the whole building permit process. It can be done as the building permit is being reviewed without additional time. And between October 2013 and May 2014, we've had a total of 158 certificate of appropriateness applications, and 100 since January 1st, 2014. So that indicates that our economy is fairly robust in our historic districts, and people are feeling a little more flush and able to do more improvements to their houses. These are the actual number of cases that the Historic Resource Preservation Board saw during that time, from October to May. And our meeting was last Wednesday, as a matter of fact. But you can see we average around 4. Doesn't seem to be a trend or so. But again, there are all kinds of administrative and staff approvals happening at the same time. So of those 158 total cases, we've only seen 27 come before the board during that time. And those are major things like additions, new construction, roofs, if they want to change the style of roof, that sort of thing. And those are the examples of the cases that we've seen over this past 6 months at the Historic Preservation Board. This pie chart represents the total number, the 158 since last October, and you can see that almost half are roof replacements. And in the property insurance industry, I bumped into this recently. I'm stuck with Citizens because I have a 15-year-old roof, it's a shingle roof, and now insurers, if they're not Citizens, want you to get with a roofing contractor and certify that that roof is going to be good for an additional 3 years. And they'll do that each year upon renewal for 5 years, and then after 20, they won't insure you. And then you're left to go to Citizens, and Citizens will insure you until 25 without the inspection, until 25 years for your roof. But then they won't insure you. So I think we're going to see plenty of roof replacements, and a lot of people who think that they might have a longer life on their roof may be forced into it due to property insurance reasons, because they have a mortgage on their property. Something to keep in mind. We have had 3 condemnations within the historic district recently, and those are issued by our building official, and they're really for informational purposes only. There's nothing we can do to prevent it because it is a life safety, public health hazard. This one was one of the first of the 3 to go. This one is still awaiting demolition, and that's 2 doors down from our vice chair's house. So we hear about this house a lot at the board meeting. And I'm proud to report that this fire damaged house was just torn down and is no longer an attractive nuisance. We've had 3 joint land development regulation workshops tweaking the land development regulations that were put in place last year, and looking at definitions just with a finer eye, fine-tuning the regulatory structure that we already have in place. And we're doing that in a joint way with the Planning and Zoning Board and looking at the code. And staff has been very helpful, giving us a lot of different information to review, and it's been a good back and forth. And I think we've slowed down a little bit in our review. I think staff was a little more ambitious with the time schedule early on, and we're taking more time, and I think they're really digesting things and taking to heart some of the suggestions that we had. So other 6 months goals, we'd like to put together a local landmark nomination for the Osborne School that had been overlooked when it achieved its National Register status, and just to be according to oil, that's a good thing to do. And we're also going to apply for a grant for historic district design guidelines from the State Division of Historic Resources for $50,000. And because we're a certified local government, because we have the professions represented on the Historic Preservation Board that we do, we're eligible for that program, and we're also eligible to forego a match. So we actually get that $50,000 to use for the design guidelines and don't have to come up with our own cash to do so. So that's a plus. And that will be an item that will help direct people on how best to design their renovation projects in light of being in a historic district. And we just really have that for College Park and part of the downtown, but none of the other 6 districts. And this is my usual advertisement here. I know you're about to review the surplus property in the city of Lake Worth, and the city owns 431 North L Street, and it appears on this list here. I circled it for you, and under staff review notes, this is a spreadsheet that you have that shows the city-owned property. It says okay to sell, and under comments it says surplus historic. And it most definitely is historic. It's not the most beautiful structure right now, but it does have quite a pedigree. It is by architect G. Sherman Childs, who designed this building and the City Hall Annex and many other buildings in the city. So when you look at the surplus property list, please engage us. We can find a creative way to reuse this property, get it back on the tax rolls, and have it celebrated as an important historic structure that it is. And that's it, if you have any questions.
Mayor, you answered one of my questions already about what percent you handle in 27 out of 158. So I want to commend, I think that the adjustments to the LDR has been successful so that staff can handle it, which helps the process. It doesn't take 2 months, which is lead time to get things together, get them turned in by a certain date, then they get reviewed, then they get scheduled, then you hear them, and it can take quite a while. So that addresses a lot of those situations, and so I think that's a successful adjustment, and I appreciate that. I appreciate also the info on the roofing situation there too. In the grant for the design guidelines, which is excellent to do that because people will really need to see things that help. It's much more helpful, even in our own LDRs, that will be getting to be more supplemental. But I would suggest or just ask you to try to grapple with the word compatible. As far as definitions go, it's a very challenging part of the way the code is written.
Right.
Yet, it's a discretionary term that I think if you can attempt to pull that together a little bit more, it will also help. That situation gives a lot of people angst in that regard, and maybe something. I have some suggestions we can talk about another time, but wanted to thank you and your staff, and I have a couple of folks that architects, friends, people I know that I'm going to do a little arm twisting. So okay.
Well, good. And I would also like to thank our staff. They do a great job, and they are quite busy and very knowledgeable, and we rely on them quite a bit. So, I'd like to
Vice
thank
Mayor?
Nothing, thank you. I just want to know how you managed to get your presentation down to exactly 10 minutes.
It's just my way.
Thank you very much.
Nicely done. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, Commission Liaison Reports and Comments, Vice Mayor?
Okay. Just very briefly, you know, the past week's been kind of exciting as one or more of this commission and the city staff have gone out and started a series of community meetings within each of the respective districts to try to begin the discussion about the Lake Worth 2020